Jesus was by the sea, and a large crowd gathered around him, so many that he stepped into a boat and sat down while the people remained on the shore. The water was calm, the edge of the land gently sloping, and the crowd stood close together, listening. Some were fishermen who had already finished their work for the day. Others were farmers, laborers, women with children, elders who had walked slowly to reach the place. They stood there quietly, waiting, because they had come to hear him speak. He taught them many things, not with complex words or distant ideas, but with stories drawn from the life they knew. He spoke in a steady manner, without haste, using examples taken from the fields, the roads, the houses, the work of each day. The people listened because they recognized what he described. These were not foreign images. They were the same scenes they saw every morning and every evening. He spoke of a man who went out to sow. The seed was real seed, carried in the hand, scattered across real ground. Some of it fell along the path where people walked, and the ground there was hard. Birds came and took it away. Some seed fell on rocky places where the soil was shallow, and it sprang up quickly. But when the sun rose, it withered because it had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it. But some seed fell on good soil, and it produced grain, growing steadily, yielding more than what had been sown. The people standing there knew this scene well. They had walked those paths, worked that soil, watched birds descend and sunrise. He did not pause to explain. He continued, allowing the image to stand as it was. He spoke of a lamp that is lit, not to be hidden under a basket or placed under a bed, but set on a stand so that those who enter may see the light. Houses nearby were already preparing for evening. Lamps, soon to be lit, shadows forming along the walls. The example was clear, grounded in daily life. He told them about a man who scattered seed on the ground and then slept and rose, night and day, while the seed sprouted and grew, though the man did not know how. The earth produced by itself, first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. When the grain was ripe, the sickle was used, because the harvest had come. Those listening had waited for harvest many times before. They knew the patience required. He spoke of a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds when sown. Yet when it grows, it becomes larger than the garden plants and puts out branches so that the birds of the air can make nests in its shade. Fields around them held plants at different stages of growth, some small, some already strong. Nothing in the story was distant from what the people could see. As he continued, he told them many such parables, speaking to them according to what they were able to hear. He did not speak to them without parables, and the crowd remained attentive, standing there by the sea, listening as the day slowly moved toward evening. There was no rush. The teaching unfolded at the pace of ordinary life. The wind moved lightly across the water. The boat remained steady. The crowd did not interrupt. These stories were not told as arguments or commands, but as descriptions of things that already existed in their world. Fields, seeds, lamps, houses, roads, growth, waiting, harvest. Everything was familiar. When the teaching continued, it was still grounded in the same reality. He spoke of a man who planted a vineyard, put a fence around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a tower. Those listening knew vineyards, knew fences and towers, knew the work required before fruit could come. He spoke of workers hired at different hours of the day, each receiving their wage. He spoke of debts, of coins, of servants, of masters, of journeys and returns. None of it required imagination beyond daily experience. He told of a shepherd who had 100 sheep and noticed when one was missing. The hills nearby held flocks even now. Shepherds moved across them daily, counting and recounting. He told of a woman who had 10 coins and lost one, and how she searched carefully until she found it. Houses nearby were being swept, floors cleared as evening approached. He spoke of a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho who fell among robbers, and of others who passed by, and of one who stopped to help. The road from Jerusalem to Jericho was known to all. Dangerous, familiar, real. He spoke of a father and two sons, of inheritance divided, of one who left and one who stayed, of hunger, work, return, and welcome. Families listening understood these tensions without explanation. Throughout it all, he remained seated, speaking calmly, allowing the stories to stand on their own. The people remained there, listening, because what he described was not distant or abstract. It was their world, spoken aloud. As the light began to lower and the day moved toward its end, the teaching continued without urgency. The parables were not rushed. They were told as complete accounts, each with its beginning and its end, rooted firmly in the real work, real choices, and real conditions of human life. Nothing dramatic occurred, no sudden change followed. The sea remained calm. The people remained standing. The words remained in the air, not pressing, not demanding. Sim peace, and the day continued toward evening. Jesus remained seated in the boat, facing the people who stood along the shore, and he spoke to them about a man who went out to sell. The account was given without haste, describing each part of the work as it would have happened in real life, without embellishment or explanation beyond what was seen. The man carried seed with him and walked across his field, moving at a steady pace, scattering the seed with his hand as he went. The land was open before him, varied in its surface and condition, shaped by long use and exposure, and the sowing followed the natural course of the ground. As the man walked, some of the seed fell along the path that crossed the field. This path was firm and well-worn, pressed down by many feet over time. The soil there was hard, unable to receive the seed. It lay exposed on the surface, unmoved. Soon birds came down, moving easily along the path, and they took the seed away. The ground remained unchanged. The seed did not enter it, and nothing grew there. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where the soil was thin and spread over stone. In these places, the seed entered the soil quickly and began to grow at once. Because the soil was shallow, the plant sprang up faster than the rest. At first, it appeared strong and alive, standing above the surface. But when the sun rose and the heat increased, the plant could not endure. It had no depth of root, and so it withered. The growth did not continue. The plant dried out and returned to the ground from which it had risen. Other seed fell among thorns. The soil in these places received the seed, and the seed began to grow. But the thorns were already present in the ground. They grew alongside the young plants, spreading slowly and steadily, drawing the same water and nourishment. Over time, the thorns crowded the plants that had grown from the seed. They pressed against them until the plants were choked. Though the plants remained alive for a time, they did not produce grain. Their growth did not reach completion, and other seed fell on good soil. This soil was deep and prepared, able to receive what was placed into it. The seed entered fully and took root. It grew steadily, following the pattern of the land and the seasons. The growth was not sudden or forced. It unfolded over time. When the plants matured, they produced grain. Some produced 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. Each yielded according to the soil that received it. Nothing was added beyond what the land itself provided. Jesus spoke these things plainly, describing the work as it would have been seen by those who labored in the fields. The people listening knew these details well. They had seen seed scattered, plants rise, heat pressed down, and harvest follow growth. The account did not rely on unfamiliar images. It was drawn entirely from what was known and observed in daily life. He did not interrupt the telling. He did not explain each result as he spoke. He allowed the sequence to stand as it was. The man went out. The seed was scattered. The land responded according to its condition. The outcome followed naturally. Nothing more was required for the account to be complete. The crowd remained quiet as the words settled. The water beside the boat moved gently. The people stood still, listening, not reacting, because the account described what they already understood. The parable was finished when the work was finished, and it remained there, complete, spoken clearly and left as it was. Jesus remained there, continuing the same account without changing the scene or the subject, allowing the work of the sower to be described in full, as it would have been remembered by anyone who had watched such labor from beginning to end. The man did not hurry as he moved across the field. His steps followed the shape of the land, slowing where the ground was uneven, steady where it was open. The seed left his hand again and again, falling where it would, not guided toward one place more than another, because sowing was done across the whole field, not only where the ground appeared favorable. The path remained clearly marked, running through the land as it had for years. People had crossed it daily, and its surface bore the mark of repeated passage. When seed fell there, it did not disappear into the soil. It stayed visible, resting on the hardened ground. Birds, accustomed to finding food along such paths, noticed it quickly. They moved without resistance, took their seed, and left nothing behind. The path remained firm, unchanged by what had fallen upon it. In the places where stone lay beneath the surface, the soil was thin. The man knew these areas, but sowing did not stop for them. Seed fell there as well, and because the soil was shallow, the seed warmed quickly and began to grow sooner than elsewhere. Small shoots appeared above the ground, green and noticeable. For a time, they stood upright, exposed to the light. But when the sun rose higher and the day grew warmer, the heat pressed down. The plants could not draw enough from the soil below, and without deep roots, they dried and fell. The ground beneath them remained rocky, unchanged by their brief growth. Where thorns grew, the soil accepted the seed, and growth began. The seed was not rejected. It entered the ground and rose alongside other plants, but the thorns were already established. Their roots spread through the soil, drawing what was needed to sustain them. As time passed, the thorns grew taller and wider, crowding the plants that had come from the sown seed. The young plants continued to live, but their growth was limited. They did not produce grain. The land in those places yielded no harvest. In the good soil, the seed entered fully. The soil was loose and deep, able to receive what was placed into it. There, the seed remained, unseen for a time. Beneath the surface, growth did not appear at once. It followed the natural order of the land. First there was the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. The process unfolded over days and weeks, following the rhythm that fields had always followed. When the grain matured, it produced a harvest greater than what had been sown. Each portion yielded according to the soil that received it. Jesus spoke of this without interruption, allowing the entire sequence to be heard as one complete account. He did not isolate one part from another. The man sowed across the whole field. The seed fell in different places. The land responded according to its condition. The result followed naturally. Nothing in the account was extraordinary. It described work that had been done many times before, in the same way, with the same outcomes. Those listening stood quietly. Farmers recognized the pattern immediately. Others recognized it through what they had seen or heard since childhood. The parable did not require explanation to be understood as a true description of the work in the land. It was familiar. It was accurate. It matched what the people already knew. When the account reached its end, Jesus did not add to it. He allowed it to stand complete. Just as the work of sowing stands complete when the seed has been scattered and the field left to the land. The crowd remained still. The water beside the boat moved gently, The moment did not shift. The parable had been told in full, exactly as it would have been seen, from the first step into the field to the final yield of grain. Nothing more was required, and nothing was taken away. After finishing the account of the sower, Jesus continued speaking to the people without changing his position or his tone. He remained seated in the boat, close to the shore, and the crowd remained standing where it was, spread along the edge of the land, listening. There was no movement among them that changed the scene. The sea stayed calm. The day continued at the same pace. He spoke again, turning to another account taken from the same work of the fields, describing something that happened not in a moment, but across time. He told them about a man who scattered seed on the ground and then left the field as it was. The sowing had already been done. The seed had already fallen where it would. After that, the man did not remain watching over the land. He returned to his ordinary routine. He slept at night and rose in the morning. Days passed in the usual way. The field did not demand his constant attention, and he did not attempt to control what would follow. The seed lay beneath the soil, unseen. From the surface, the ground appeared unchanged. The soil looked the same from one day to the next. There were no visible signs to indicate what was happening below. Wind moved across the field. The sun rose and set. Rain came when it came. The land received each day, as it always had, quietly, without announcement. As time passed, growth began. It did not begin where the man could see it. It began beneath the surface, hidden within the soil. The man did not cause this growth by watching it, and he did not understand how it happened. The earth itself produced the growth. The process followed its own order, separate from the man's awareness. There was no sudden change. The movement was slow and steady. First, a blade appeared, breaking through the surface of the ground. It was small, green, and easily overlooked. It did not alter the appearance of the field in a dramatic way. It simply existed. As more time passed, the blade grew stronger, then the ear formed. Later still, the full grain developed in the ear. Each stage followed the one before it. Nothing was skipped. Nothing was rushed. During this time, the man continued with his life. He slept and rose. He walked past the field. He observed the changes when they became visible. But the growth did not depend on his presence. The field progressed according to the nature of the soil and the seasons. The work of growth continued, whether it was noticed or not. When the grain was ripe, the change was clear. The field no longer held only green growth. The grain had reached its fullness. At that time, the man put in the sickle, because the harvest had come. The action of harvesting did not occur early. It came only when the process was complete. Until then, the field had been left to grow in its own time. Jesus described this account carefully as a complete sequence of real events. There was sowing, there was waiting, there was growth that could not be seen at first. There was maturity, there was harvest. Nothing in the account depended on explanation or interpretation. It described what happened in the fields, as it had always happened. The people listening recognized the truth of what was spoken. Those who worked the land knew this process well. Others had seen it from a distance. The account did not surprise them. It matched their experience. It described real work, real time, and real outcomes. Jesus did not interrupt the telling. He did not draw conclusions from it. He allowed the account to stand as it was spoken. The man sowed. Time passed. The earth produced. The harvest came when it was ready. The words remained simple and direct. The crowd remained quiet. The boat remained steady on the water. The teaching continued in the same manner, grounded in ordinary life, spoken clearly, and allowed to rest exactly where it had been placed. Jesus continued in the same calm manner, remaining with the same account and allowing its details to unfold slowly, without introducing anything new or moving beyond what had already been described. He kept his focus on the field itself and on the passage of time that followed the sowing, describing the period when nothing appeared to happen, and yet everything was already underway. The people listening remained where they were, and the scene did not change. The shoreline stayed quiet, the water moved gently. The account continued at the pace of ordinary days. The man in the account did not stand over the field with concern. After the seed was scattered, he trusted the ground to do what it had always done. Night came, and he slept. Morning came, and he rose. One day followed another in the same pattern. There were no signs that demanded attention. The field did not announce its progress. From a distance, it appeared unchanged, a stretch of soil resting under the sky. The earth worked quietly beneath the surface. Moisture reached the seed. The covering soil held it in place. What began there was hidden from view, taking place beyond observation. The man did not interfere, and he did not need to. Growth did not respond to his effort or his understanding. It followed its own order, shaped by the nature of the seed and the ground that received it. When the blade finally appeared, it did not alter the field all at once. Small shoots rose gradually, scattered across the land, not evenly, not dramatically. Days passed, and the green deepened. The field changed slowly, so slowly that it could be missed by anyone not paying attention. Yet the change continued, steady and reliable. After the blade came the ear. The structure of the plant became clearer. What had been thin and simple took on form. Later still came the full grain in the ear. The weight of it bent the stalk slightly. The field no longer looked the same as it had at the beginning. The change was now visible, though it had taken place over a long span of quiet days. Throughout this time, the man continued his routine. He returned to the field when needed. He observed what had grown, but the growth did not depend on his observation. The earth produced by itself. The process did not speed up or slow down in response to attention. It followed the same course it always had. When the grain reached maturity, the moment was clear. The field had completed its work. At that time, the man took up the sickle and began the harvest, because the harvest had come. The action was direct and appropriate to the moment. It did not come early, and it did not wait beyond its time. It followed the completion of growth. Jesus spoke this account as a whole, describing the full cycle from sowing to harvest without separating one part from another. The sequence remained intact. The emphasis stayed on the reality of the process and the passage of time. Nothing in the account was hurried. Nothing was left out. Those listening understood what was being described. Farmers recognized the patience required. Others recognized the pattern through what they had seen in the fields year after year. The account matched what was known. It described work and waiting as they truly occurred. When Jesus finished this telling, he did not add explanation. He did not draw attention to one moment over another. He allowed the account to stand complete, as the field stands complete when the harvest has been gathered. The crowd remained quiet. The scene remained unchanged. The teaching continued, steady and grounded, spoken plainly and left where it rested. After speaking about the growth of seed that happens quietly over time, Jesus continued without changing the setting or the pace of his teaching. He remained seated in the boat, close enough for his voice to carry clearly across the water, and the people remained gathered along the shore. No one interrupted him. The teaching moved forward in the same manner, calm and direct, grounded in things that people could see and understand from their own lives. He then spoke to them about a mustard seed, keeping the account simple and complete, describing it as it would have been observed in the fields and gardens around them. He said that the kingdom he spoke of was like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. The seed itself was small, easily overlooked when held in the hand. It did not appear significant. Many seeds were larger. Many plants showed themselves more quickly. Nothing about the seed drew attention to itself at the moment it was sown. Once placed in the ground, the seed remained unseen for a time. The soil covered it completely. There was no visible change on the surface at first. Days passed, and the ground looked the same as it had before. The seed did not announce its presence. It rested within the earth, receiving what the soil and the season provided. Over time, the seed began to grow. What emerged was small at first, a simple shoot rising from the ground. It did not dominate the field. It did not alter the appearance of the land in any sudden way. It grew quietly, following the same order as other plants, responding to light, water, and time. The growth continued steadily, without interruption. As the plant developed, it became larger than the other garden plants. Its branches extended outward. Its presence became clear not because it grew quickly, but because it continued to grow without stopping. The plant reached a size that exceeded what would have been expected from such a small beginning. The branches became strong enough that birds came and made nests in its shade. The plant stood there, rooted in the same soil where the small seed had been placed. Those listening understood this scene well. Mustard plants were common. Gardens were familiar. Birds nesting in branches was not unusual. Nothing in the account depended on imagination beyond daily observation. The description matched what happened in fields and gardens season after season. Jesus spoke this account without adding explanation. He did not compare it to anything else in his telling. He described the seed, the sowing, the growth, and the result. The sequence was complete. The beginning was small. The growth took time. The outcome was visible and established. The people remained quiet as he finished. The water beside the boat moved gently. The day continued toward evening. The parable had been spoken plainly, grounded in real planting and real growth, and it remained there, finished, without commentary or conclusion beyond the facts of what had been described. Jesus continued with the same account, remaining entirely within the description of the mustard seed and its growth, without shifting the scene or introducing a different subject. He described the process as it would have been observed by someone who had planted such a seed and then watched the field across many days and seasons. The account did not move quickly from beginning to end. It remained with a gradual change, the kind that takes place slowly and often without being noticed from one day to the next. The seed, once placed into the ground, disappeared beneath the surface. The soil closed over it completely. From above, there was no indication of what had been planted there. The field looked unchanged, resting under the sky in the same condition as before. Days passed in the ordinary way. The sun rose and set. Wind moved across the land. Moisture reached the soil when rain came. The seed remained unseen, responding quietly to what the earth provided. When growth began, it did not announce itself. A small shoot emerged from the ground, thin and easily overlooked. It did not stand apart from the other young plants growing nearby. At that stage, it was difficult to distinguish it from anything else in the field. The shoot remained close to the ground, exposed to the same conditions as everything around it. Its presence did not alter the appearance of the land in any noticeable way. As time continued, the plant grew steadily. Its stem thickened. Leaves extended outward. The change did not happen all at once. It unfolded gradually, so slowly that it could only be recognized by remembering how the plant had appeared before. Day after day, the growth continued, following the same order as other plants, responding to light, water, and the passing of time. The mustard plant did not require special care. It drew what it needed from the soil where it had been planted. Its roots spread beneath the surface, unseen, anchoring it firmly in place. Above the ground, the plant increased in size, its branches extending farther than those of the other garden plants around it. What had begun as something small and unnoticed gradually became established and clear. As the plant reached maturity, its presence became unmistakable. It stood larger than the surrounding plants, its branches wide and strong. Birds came and settled among the branches. They found shelter there, resting and nesting in the shade provided by the plant. The scene did not involve anything unusual. It reflected what happened when such plants were allowed to grow fully in the fields and gardens. Jesus described the entire process as a single, continuous account. The seed was sown. Time passed. Growth occurred. The plant reached its full size. The birds came. He did not interrupt the sequence. He did not pause to explain what the growth represented. He allowed the facts to remain as they were spoken, complete and sufficient. Those listening recognized the accuracy of the description. Many had planted similar seeds. Others had watched such plants grow. They understood how small beginnings could lead to large, established growth over time. The account did not depend on imagination or interpretation. It matched what was known from experience. When Jesus finished his telling, he did not add further words to it. The account stood complete, describing real planting, real waiting, and real growth. The crowd remained quiet. The boat remained steady. The day continued toward evening. The parable had been spoken fully and left exactly where it belonged, resting within the ordinary reality it described. After completing the account of the mustard seed, Jesus continued speaking to the people without altering the setting or his manner. He remained seated where he was, and the crowd remained gathered along the shore, listening in the same quiet attention. He moved to another account drawn from ordinary life, one that required no change of place or imagination beyond what was already familiar to those present. The teaching continued at the same steady pace, grounded in daily experience. He spoke to them about leaven, describing it as it was used in households throughout the region. A woman took leaven and mixed it into a large amount of flour. The flour was real flour, measured and prepared for baking. The leaven was small in quantity compared to the flour into which it was placed. It did not appear significant when set beside the larger mass. Nothing about the act drew attention. It was ordinary work, done many times in many homes. The leaven was worked into the flour thoroughly. The mixture was handled and pressed until the leaven was no longer visible. Once mixed, it could not be separated from the flour again. The dough appeared the same across its surface. There was no outward sign of immediate change. The woman set it aside, and time passed in the usual way. The dough remained where it was placed. As time passed, the leaven worked through the entire mixture. The change did not happen suddenly. It was not visible at first. The dough rested quietly, and yet within it, the leaven continued to act. Gradually, the whole mass was affected. What had been mixed in, small amount, reached every part. The process followed its own course, without need for constant attention. Those listening understood this process well. Bread was prepared daily. Dough was mixed and left to rest. The change that followed was familiar. The account did not rely on distant images. It described work done in their own homes, by their own hands. The woman did not stand watching the dough constantly. She trusted the process to unfold as it always had. Jesus did not add explanation to the account. He spoke it as a complete description. The leaven was taken. It was mixed into the flour. Time passed. The whole was leavened. Nothing more was needed for the account to be finished. He then spoke of a man who found treasure hidden in a field. The field was real land, worked and owned as fields were in those days. The man came upon the treasure while moving through the field. He did not seek it intentionally. He found it unexpectedly. Once he discovered it, he hid it again. The field remained unchanged on the surface. Nothing marked the place where the treasure lay. Afterward, the man went and sold all that he had. He did this willingly, without hesitation, because of what he had found. He used the proceeds to buy the field. The transaction was ordinary. Fields were bought and sold. Ownership was transferred. Nothing outwardly distinguished this field from any other. The treasure remained hidden beneath the ground. Those listening understood the situation. Land was valuable. Ownership mattered. Treasure hidden in a field belonged to the one who owned the field. The account followed known customs. It described actions that made sense within the world they lived in. Jesus told this account plainly, without interruption or explanation. He allowed the sequence to stand as it was. A man found treasure. He hid it. He sold what he had. He bought the field. The account was complete. The crowd remained still as he continued. The water beside the boat moved gently. The day continued to pass. The teaching remained grounded in real actions, real work, and real decisions, spoken calmly and left to rest where it had been placed. Jesus continued in the same manner, remaining with the same setting and the same calm delivery, allowing the accounts he had begun to be described fully and carefully, without haste and without adding anything beyond what was necessary to present them as complete events. He stayed with the ordinary details, the kind that would have been remembered easily by those who heard him, because they belonged to the daily rhythm of life in their homes and fields. He returned again to the account of the leaven, lingering with it longer, describing the quiet passage of time that followed after the dough had been prepared. The woman had finished her work of mixing. The leaven was no longer visible. The dough rested in the place where it had been set aside. From the outside, nothing appeared to be happening. The surface of the dough looked still and unchanged. The woman turned to other tasks. The house continued its ordinary activity. The dough remained where it was, undisturbed. As time passed, the leaven continued its work within the dough. The change was not dramatic. It could not be seen all at once. Slowly, the dough responded. It softened. It expanded. What had been dense became lighter. The entire mixture was affected evenly, not in one place more than another. The process followed the same order it always had. It did not depend on watching. It did not require explanation. When the time was right, the dough was ready. The work that began with a small amount had reached everything. Those listening knew this well. They had waited for dough to rise. They had learned patience in the kitchen as surely as in the field. The account described something that happened quietly, without announcement, through time and waiting. Jesus allowed the description to stand on its own, complete and sufficient, without drawing conclusions from it. He then remained with the account of the treasure in the field, describing it again in fuller detail, as it would have been understood within their world. The field was ordinary land, owned and worked as fields were. The man moved through it for reasons unrelated to the treasure. He was not searching, he was engaged in his usual work. When he came upon what was hidden, the discovery was unexpected. The ground itself revealed it. The man understood immediately what he had found. He did not remove it openly. He covered it again. The field looked the same as before. Anyone passing by would have seen nothing unusual. The man left the place and returned to his affairs, carrying the knowledge of what lay beneath the soil. Afterward, he sold all that he had. This did not happen in secret. It followed the ordinary practices of buying and selling. Possessions were exchanged. Agreements were made. The man gave up what he owned willingly. He did not delay. When the field was offered for sale, he bought it. The ownership changed hands. The land became his. Once the field belonged to him, the treasure belonged to him as well. The account did not describe what he did afterward. It ended with the purchase completed and the matter settled. The actions were clear. The sequence was finished. Nothing further was required for the account to be whole. Jesus spoke these things without emphasis or commentary. He allowed the accounts to be heard as descriptions of real actions carried out by real people. The crowd remained attentive, recognizing the situations as familiar and plausible within their own experience. Fields were bought, dough was prepared, time passed, outcomes followed. When he finished speaking, the scene remained unchanged. The crowd stayed where it was. The boat rested on the water. The day continued toward evening. The parables had been spoken fully, grounded in ordinary life, and left exactly as they were told, complete and undisturbed. Jesus continued speaking in the same steady manner, without changing the place where he sat or the way the people stood listening. The setting remained the same. The water close by, the shore filled with those who had come to hear him. He moved to another account, drawn from work that was familiar to many of them, describing it plainly and completely, without explanation beyond the actions themselves. He spoke about a merchant who was searching for fine pearls. The man was experienced in his trade. He knew the value of what he handled. He had spent time examining goods, traveling from place to place, looking carefully at what was offered. The search was not hurried. It was deliberate, shaped by knowledge and patience. Pearls were not found by chance alone. They were recognized by someone who understood their worth. As the merchant continued his work, he found one pearl of great value. When he saw it, he knew what it was. He did not mistake it for something ordinary. He did not hesitate over its quality. The pearl stood apart from the others he had seen. Its worth was clear to him immediately. He understood what he was looking at because of his experience. After finding the pearl, the man went and sold all that he had. This action was not hidden or symbolic. It followed the ordinary practices of selling possessions. What he owned was exchanged. Agreements were made. He gave up what he had accumulated in order to obtain what he had found. When the transaction was complete, he bought the pearl. The account did not describe hesitation or regret. It moved directly from recognition to action. Those listening understood the sequence. Merchants traded goods. Value was assessed. Possessions were exchanged. The account described actions that made sense within their world. The man searched. He found what he was seeking. He acted according to its value. The account ended there, complete and settled. Jesus then spoke about a net that was cast into the sea. The net was large and was thrown into the water as fishermen did. It gathered fish of every kind. The action was familiar to those standing nearby, especially to those who worked on the water nets were Castellano. Fish were gathered together without distinction. The sea did not separate them by quality. When the net was full, it was drawn ashore. The fishermen sat down and sorted what had been caught. The good fish were put into containers. The bad were thrown away. The work was careful and deliberate. It followed the same pattern it always had. Sorting came after gathering. Decisions were made only when the net was brought in. Jesus described the entire process as it would have been seen from beginning to end. The net was cast. The fish were gathered. The net was drawn in. The sorting was done. Nothing in the account went beyond what was known from daily work on the sea. It described real labor, carried out in the usual order. He did not interrupt the account to explain it. He allowed it to stand as a description of what fishermen did when their work was complete. The people listening recognized the scene immediately. Some had performed the same task themselves. Others had watched it many times. The teaching continued at the same pace, grounded in familiar actions and outcomes. The crowd remained attentive. The water remained calm. The accounts were spoken plainly, describing work and decisions as they were known and left to stand on their own without addition or commentary. Jesus remained with the same accounts, continuing without changing the scene or his manner, allowing the details to settle slowly as they would have been remembered by those who lived close to the sea and the markets. he did not move away from the work he had already described. He stayed with it, extending the account so that each action could be followed in its proper order, without haste and without explanation added afterward. He lingered again with the image of the merchant, describing the long process that came before the moment of discovery. The merchant did not begin his work with certainty of what he would find. He traveled, examined goods, weighed value carefully. He compared what was offered to him with what he already knew. Days passed in this searching. Many pearls were seen and set aside. Some were acceptable, others were not. The work required patience and discernment. The merchant's attention remained steady, shaped by experience rather than impulse. When the pearl of great value was finally found, the recognition was immediate. The merchant did not need further testing. He understood what he held. The account remained with that moment briefly, not as excitement, but as clarity. The man's decision followed naturally from what he had seen. He returned to his affairs and sold what he owned. The process took time. Possessions were exchanged in the ordinary way. Agreements were made. Nothing about the transaction was unusual. It followed the same customs that governed buying and selling in their world. Once the exchange was complete, the pearl belonged to him. The account ended there. It did not describe what he did afterward. It did not return to the search. The matter was settled. The sequence had reached its end. Those listening understood this. The action was complete when ownership changed hands. Jesus then returned again to the account of the net, staying with the moment after it had been drawn ashore. The fishermen sat down together. The net lay open before them. Fish of many kinds were gathered in one place. The sorting did not happen in the water. It happened on land when the work of gathering was finished. Each fish was examined. Decisions were made carefully. The good were kept. The rest were discarded. The process took time and attention. This work was familiar. It followed the same order each time. First, the net was cast. Then it was drawn in. Then the sorting was done. The fishermen did not rush this part of their labor. They remained seated, working steadily, hands moving with practiced ease. Containers were filled. What was not kept was set aside. When the work was finished, the net lay empty. Jesus spoke of this without emphasis. He did not raise his voice or draw attention to one part more than another. He allowed the sequence to remain whole, describing the work as it happened from beginning to end. The people listening recognized the truth of it. Many had seen the same scene repeated countless times along the shore. The accounts remained grounded in what was known. Searching, finding, selling, casting, gathering, sorting. Each action followed the one before it. Nothing was abstract, nothing was symbolic in the telling. It was work done by real people, in real places, according to patterns that did not change. When Jesus finished speaking, the scene around him remained calm. The people stood quietly. The boat rested on the water. The sea continued its gentle movement. The parables had been told fully, with care and patience, and they remained exactly as they had been spoken, complete and undisturbed, resting within the ordinary reality from which they had been drawn. After speaking about the merchant and the fishermen, Jesus continued teaching without pause, remaining in the same place and addressing the same crowd. The setting did not change. The people stayed along the shore, listening quietly. The sea remained calm. He turned to another account drawn from daily life, one that involved a household rather than a field or the water, and he described it plainly, following the events as they would have occurred. He spoke about a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. The account began with the moment the king called his servants to him. They came as they were summoned. One was brought who owed a great amount. The debt was real and measurable, far beyond what the man could repay. There was no dispute about the amount. It stood as a fact. The man did not have the means to settle it. The situation was clear to everyone involved. Because the servant could not pay, the king ordered that he, along with his wife, his children, and everything he owned, be sold, so that payment might be made. This followed the customs of the time. The order was not unusual. It reflected the seriousness of the debt and the authority of the one who held it. The servant stood before the king with nothing to offer. The servant fell down before him and pleaded. He asked for patience. He did not deny what he owed. He did not argue the amount. He asked only for time. The account stayed with this moment, describing the posture of the servant and the words spoken. He stood in need, without resources, dependent entirely on the decision of the king. The king looked at the servant. The account did not describe anger or haste. The decision followed. The king released him. He forgave the debt. The amount that had stood against the servant was cleared. Nothing was taken from him. He was allowed to go free. The account moved forward with the matter settled. Jesus spoke this part of the account plainly, without commentary, allowing the sequence to be heard as it was. The people listening understood the seriousness of such a debt and the weight of such a release. The situation described was real, governed by known practices and authority. The servant left from before the king and went out. The account did not linger on the court. It followed the servant into the ordinary world again, where he encountered another servant who owed him a smaller amount. The amount was real and known. It was not equal to what had just been forgiven, but it was still a debt. The servant took hold of the other and demanded payment. He spoke directly, insisting on what was owed. The account described the action as it occurred without softening it. The other servant fell down and pleaded in the same way, asking for patience and time to repay. The words were similar. The situation was familiar, but the servant refused. He did not grant patience. He had the man put into prison until the debt should be paid. The action followed his authority over the matter. The account did not explain his reasoning. It simply described what he did. Those who saw what happened were troubled. Other servants noticed the situation. They were aware of what had taken place before the king. They understood the contrast between the two moments. They went and reported everything to the king, describing what they had seen. The king summoned the servant again. He spoke to him about the mercy that had been shown and the action that had followed. The account remained with the king's authority and decision. Because the servant had not shown the same patience, the king delivered him to be punished until his debt should be paid. Jesus spoke this account in full, describing each action in its proper order. The story moved from court to street and back again. It followed real authority, real debts, real decisions. He did not pause to explain it. He allowed the events to stand as they were told. The crowd remained quiet. The scene by the sea did not change. The account ended where it belonged, complete and settled, spoken plainly and left without added interpretation. Jesus remained with the same account, allowing it to unfold more fully by staying with the sequence of events and the ordinary realities that surrounded them. He did not change the place where he taught, and the people did not move from where they stood. The sea beside them remained calm, and the day continued in the same quiet manner. The account of the king and the servants was not rushed. It was described carefully, as something that could be followed, step by step, without interruption. The king's authority remained clear throughout the account. He had the right to call his servants, to examine what was owed, and to decide how matters would be settled. When the servant first stood before him, the debt was established and undisputed. It was recorded, measured, and known. The servant did not attempt to deny it or reduce it. He stood without resources, unable to change a situation by his own effort. The plea for patience was made plainly. The servant did not offer a plan or a guarantee. He asked only for time. The account did not describe elaborate words or gestures. It remained with the simple fact that the servant placed himself entirely at the mercy of the king's decision. The king's response followed without delay. He chose to release the servant. The debt was forgiven. The record was cleared. The matter was closed at that point. The servant left the presence of the king with nothing owed. When the account followed the servant outside, it returned to the ordinary setting of daily life. The servant encountered another man who owed him a smaller amount. This debt, too, was real and recognized. It was not imaginary. It existed within the same system of obligation and repayment that governed all such matters. The servant acted immediately. He seized the man and demanded what was owed. The words spoken were direct. The account did not soften the action or excuse it. It described it as it happened. The second servant responded in the same way the first had before the king. He fell down and asked for patience. He requested time to repay what he owed. The situation mirrored the earlier moment almost exactly. The account allowed this parallel to be seen clearly through the repetition of actions and words, without pointing it out directly. The response, however, was different. The servant refused to grant patience. He did not wait. He exercised his authority and had the man put into prison until the debt could be paid. The account described the action simply and moved on. It did not pause to justify or explain the decision. It remained focused on what took place. Other servants witnessed these events. They were aware of what had happened earlier before the king. They recognized the sequence and the contrast between the two moments. Their response followed naturally. They went and reported everything to the king, describing the actions they had seen and the decisions that had been made. The report was complete. Nothing was omitted. The king called the servant back into his presence. The authority of the king remained unchanged. He addressed the servant directly, referring to the forgiveness that had been granted and the action that followed. The account did not dwell on emotion. It remained with the facts of the case. Mercy had been given. Mercy had not been extended in return. Because of this, the king reversed his earlier release. The servant was delivered to punishment until his debt should be paid. The account ended with the matter settled according to the king's authority and judgment. The sequence was complete. The actions followed one another in clear order, and the outcome was final. Jesus finished telling the account without adding explanation or instruction. He did not pause to interpret the events. He allowed the story to remain as it was told, grounded in real authority, real obligations, and real consequences. The people listening understood the structure of the account and the reality it described. It matched the systems and practices they knew. When the account ended, the setting remained unchanged. The people stood quietly. The boat remained steady on the water. The sea continued its gentle movement. The parable had been spoken fully, from beginning to end, and it was left there, complete, without commentary, resting within the ordinary reality from which it had been drawn. After finishing the account of the king and the servants, Jesus continued teaching the people without altering the setting or the tone of his voice. He remained seated in the boat near the shore, and the crowd remained standing where it had been, listening in the same quiet attention. The day had not changed suddenly. The light was steady. The water moved gently. The teaching continued in an unbroken flow, moving from one account to another without interruption. He then spoke to them about a man who sowed good seed in his field. The field was ordinary land, prepared and worked in the usual way. The seed was good seed, chosen carefully for planting. The man sowed it as farmers did, spreading it across the ground so that it would grow evenly. When the work was finished, the field was left to rest. Nothing further was required at that moment. The seed lay in the soil, unseen, beginning its work beneath the surface. While everyone was sleeping, another man came and sowed weeds among the wheat. This action took place quietly, without being noticed at the time. The field appeared the same as before. The soil was undisturbed on the surface, nothing marked what had been done. Afterward, the one who had done this left, and the night passed as it normally did. As time went on and the plants began to grow, the difference became visible. When the wheat formed stalks and produced heads of grain, the weeds appeared as well. They grew alongside the wheat, sharing the same soil, drawing from the same ground. At first, they were difficult to distinguish. Only as growth continued did their presence become clear. The servants of the man who owned the field noticed what had grown. They came to him and spoke about what they saw. They recognized that the seed he had sown was good, and yet the weeds were there among the wheat. They asked how this could have happened. The account followed their observation and question without adding explanation beyond the actions themselves. The owner of the field answered them, saying that an enemy had done this. The statement was direct. It explained the presence of the weeds without altering the facts of what had occurred. The servants then asked whether they should go and gather the weeds. They were prepared to act, to separate what did not belong. But the owner told them not to do so, explaining that in gathering the weeds they might also uproot the wheat along with them. He instructed them to let both grow together until they harvest. At that time, the separation would be done properly. The harvest would provide the right moment for action. The account stayed with this instruction, describing the decision to wait rather than intervene too early. The field remained as it was. Wheat and weeds continued to grow together. The soil held both. Time passed in the ordinary way. The plants developed side by side, each according to its nature. The decision to wait did not change the field immediately. It allowed the process to continue until the proper time. Jesus described this account plainly, following the sequence as it would have been observed by those who worked the land. Sowing took place. Growth followed. A problem became visible. A decision was made to wait. The account did not rush ahead. It remained with the reality of the field and the patience required in such work. The people listening recognized this situation. Fields were known to hold mixed growth. Early removal could damage what was intended to remain. Waiting until harvest was a practice they understood. The account did not rely on unfamiliar ideas. It described real work, real decisions, and real outcomes that followed the rhythm of agriculture. The parable was spoken fully, describing events from the sowing of seed to the decision to wait until harvest. Jesus did not add explanation to it. He allowed the account to stand on its own, complete and grounded in ordinary life. The crowd remained quiet. The water beside the boat moved gently. The teaching continued at the same steady pace, rooted in the real conditions of the world they knew. Jesus remained with the same account, continuing to describe the field and what took place there without moving away from the scene or altering the pace of his teaching. He allowed the events to be followed slowly, as they would have unfolded in real time, staying with the details that those who worked the land would recognize immediately. The field remained before them in the telling, holding both wheat and weeds together, unchanged by the decision to wait. The wheat continued to grow according to its nature. Its stalks strengthened as the days passed. The heads of grain formed gradually, becoming heavier as they matured. The plants stood upright in the field, drawing nourishment from the soil beneath them. At the same time, the weeds grew alongside the wheat. They followed their own pattern of growth, spreading among the plants, occupying the same space, drawing from the same ground. From a distance, the field appeared full and active, yet mixed. The servants continued to see both growing together. They did not act on their own judgment. They remembered the instruction they had received. The decision to wait remained in place. The field was left undisturbed. No attempt was made to separate the plants early. The soil held everything that had been sown, both what belonged and what did not, until the proper time would come. As the season advanced, the difference between wheat and weeds became clearer. The wheat bent under the weight of its grain. The weeds remained lighter, different in form. The distinction was visible, but the instruction remained the same. The moment for action had not yet arrived. The work of separation was reserved for the harvest, not before. When the harvest came, the timing was clear. The grain had reached its fullness. The field was ready. At that time, the reapers were sent out. They moved through the field according to instruction. First, the weeds were gathered. They were collected and bound together to be burned. After that, the wheat was gathered and brought into the barn. The sequence was deliberate and ordered. Nothing was done prematurely. Each action followed the completion of growth. Jesus described the harvest as it would have been carried out, with reapers working carefully, separating what had grown together. The process required attention and patience. It was done at the right moment, not earlier, not later. The field, which had held both wheat and weeds together for a time, was finally cleared according to its intended purpose. The account remained grounded in the reality of agricultural work. Fields were sown. Growth occurred. Mixed plants appeared. Decisions were made to wait. Harvest brought separation. Nothing in the description required explanation beyond what was known from experience. Those listening had seen similar situations in their own fields. They understood the risk of acting too early and the necessity of waiting until the grain was mature. Jesus spoke the account to its completion, following it from the sowing of good seed through growth, waiting, and harvest. He did not interrupt the telling to interpret it. He allowed the sequence of events to stand as it was described. The field began in order. Interference occurred. Time passed. The harvest resolved what had grown together. When he finished speaking, the scene around him remained unchanged. The people stood quietly by the shore. The boat rested on the water. The sea moved gently. The parable had been told fully, in plain terms, describing real planting, real waiting, and real harvesting. It was left there, complete and settled, resting within the ordinary reality from which it had been drawn. After speaking about the field where wheat and weeds grew together until the time of harvest, Jesus continued teaching the people without altering the setting or the pace. He remained seated near the water, and the crowd remained gathered along the shore, listening quietly. The day moved forward in the same steady way. There was no interruption. The teaching flowed from one account to the next, each drawn from situations that were familiar and real. He then spoke to them about a man who had 2 sons. The account began in an ordinary household setting. Without ceremony or explanation, the younger of the 2 sons came to his father and asked for a share of the property. The request was direct. It involved a division of what belonged to the family. The father listened and agreed. He divided his living between them. The matter was settled without dispute, and each son received what was assigned to him. Not long after, the younger son gathered all that he had and went into a distant country. The departure was deliberate. He left the household and traveled far from home. In that place, he spent his wealth in reckless living. The account did not dwell on details beyond what was necessary to describe the outcome. What he had was gradually consumed. The resources he carried with him diminished until nothing remained. After he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country. The change in conditions was not caused by his actions. It came upon the land itself. Food became scarce. Work became difficult to find. The young man began to be in need. He had no means to support himself, and the wealth that once sustained him was gone. He went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country. The work given to him was tending pigs in the fields. This was a task that placed him far below the position he once held. He fed the pigs and watched over them. Hunger followed him there. He longed to eat what the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. The account remained with his condition as it was, describing it plainly. As time passed, he came to himself. He remembered his father's household. He recalled that even the hired servants there had more than enough food. While he was perishing with hunger, he decided to return to his father. The decision was clear. prepared what he would say. He acknowledged his failure and his unworthiness. The account described his resolve without embellishment. He set out and returned home. The journey was real and physical, covering the distance between the distant country and his father's house. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him. The father recognized him. He was moved and ran to him. He embraced him and kissed him. The son spoke the words he had prepared, confessing his failure and acknowledging his position. The father did not delay. He instructed the servants to bring the best robe and put it on his son. A ring was placed on his hand and shoes on his feet. The fattened calf was brought and killed. The celebration was prepared. The account described these actions in order, as they would have taken place in a household responding to such a return. The reason given was simple. The son had been dead and was alive again. He had been lost and was found. The account continued, turning then to the older son, who was in the field. As he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. He asked one of the servants what was happening. When he learned that his brother had returned and that a celebration had been prepared, he became angry and refused to go in. The father came out and spoke with him. The older son spoke of his years of service and obedience. He noted that he had never been given such a celebration. He spoke of his brother's actions and the response they had received. The father answered him, reminding him that he was always with him and that all that belonged to him was his. The celebration, he said, was necessary because the brother had been lost and was found. Jesus told this account fully, following it from the household to the distant country and back again, describing real decisions, real loss, real need, and real return. He did not interrupt the telling. He allowed the account to stand as it was spoken, complete in itself. The crowd remained quiet as the account ended. The shore remained unchanged. The water moved gently. The parable had been spoken in full, grounded in real family life and real choices, and it was left there, complete and undisturbed, resting within the ordinary world the people knew. Jesus remained with the same account, continuing it without changing the setting or the tone of his teaching, allowing the events of the household to be described more fully and in proper order as they would have unfolded in real life. The people along the shore continued to listen, and nothing in the scene around them shifted. The sea remained calm. The day continued at the same pace. The account of the father and his sons was not hurried. It was allowed to breathe, moving through each stage with patience. The younger son's return did not erase the distance he had traveled. The road back to his father's house was long, and each step carried him closer to what he had left behind. His condition reflected the time he had spent away. His clothing was worn. His strength was reduced. He did not arrive with confidence or expectation. He came as he was, carrying only the decision he had made to return and the words he had prepared to speak. When the father saw him from a distance, the recognition was immediate. He did not wait for confirmation from others. He did not remain where he was. He moved toward his son without hesitation. The distance between them closed quickly. The father embraced him before the son could complete what he had planned to say. The account stayed with these actions, describing them as they occurred, without explanation added afterward. The servants were cold, and they responded at once. They brought clothing that marked restoration rather than return to servitude. The robe was placed on the son. The ring was given to him. Shoes were put on his feet. These actions followed one another in clear order. Each one had meaning within the household. The son was not treated as a hired servant. He was received back into the family. The preparation of the celebration followed. The calf that had been set aside was brought and killed. Food was prepared. The household gathered. Music and movement filled the space. The reason given was clear and stated plainly. The son who had been lost was now present again. The account did not describe excess beyond what was necessary to show that the response was complete and intentional. The older son's position remained outside the house. He had been working in the field and returned to hear the sound of the celebration before seeing it. His inquiry was direct. He asked what was happening. When he learned the reason, his response followed immediately. He became angry and did not go in. He stayed outside, separated from the gathering by his own decision. The father went out to him. He did not summon him inside. He met him where he was. The account stayed with this interaction, describing the older son's words and the father's response. The older son spoke of his service, of his obedience, of the years he had remained. He measured his actions against what his brother had done and against what had been given in response. The father answered him without dismissing his presence. He reminded him of what had always been true. The son was with him. What belonged to the father belonged to him as well. The celebration did not remove anything from him. It responded to the return of the one who had been absent. The account did not describe the older son's final response. It ended with the father's words and the situation as it stood. Jesus told the account without adding instruction or interpretation. He did not explain the positions of the sons. He allowed the events and responses to stand as they were described. The household, the departure, the loss, the return, the celebration, and the tension all remained within the account itself. The people listening understood the reality of what was described. Families were known to experience division, departure, and return. Inheritance, work, resentment, and reconciliation were familiar. The account did not rely on imagination beyond lived experience. It described actions and decisions that were recognizable and real. When Jesus finished speaking, the scene by the shore remained unchanged. The crowd stood quietly. The boat rested on the water. The sea continued its gentle movement. The parable had been spoken fully, following real events within the household from beginning to end, and it was left there, complete, without explanation, resting within the ordinary reality from which it had been drawn. After completing the account of the father and his two sons, Jesus continued speaking to the people without changing the setting or his posture. He remained seated near the water, and the crowd remained gathered along the shore, listening quietly. The teaching did not conclude abruptly. It continued in the same measured manner, moving to another account drawn from ordinary life, one that involved work, responsibility, and time. The pace remained steady, and the words were spoken plainly. He spoke to them about a landowner who went on a journey and entrusted his property to his servants. Before leaving, the man called the servants to him and gave each a portion of what he owned. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. The distribution was deliberate. The amounts were measured. The matter was settled before the man departed. The servant who received 5 talents went at once and traded with them. He worked with what had been given to him, using it in the way he knew. Over time, the amount increased, and he gained 5 more. The servant who received 2 talents did the same. He traded with them and gained 2 more. The account did not dwell on the details of their work. It described the outcome. What had been entrusted to them was put to use. The servant who received 1 talent went away, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. The action was deliberate and careful. The ground covered what had been placed there. From the surface, nothing indicated what was hidden beneath. The servant left it there, undisturbed, and time passed. After a long time, the master returned and settled accounts with his servants. The time of waiting ended. Each servant came forward to present what had been entrusted to him and what had followed. The one who had received 5 talents brought the additional 5. He presented them together, showing what had been done. The one who had received 2 talents did the same, bringing the 2 additional talents he had gained. The master responded to each of them in the same way. He acknowledged their work and their faithfulness. He approves of what had been done with what had been entrusted. The account described this response without embellishment. The matter was clear. The servants had been faithful with what they were given. Then the servant who had received 1 talent came forward. He spoke about his actions and his reasons. He explained that he had been afraid and had hidden the talent in the ground. He brought it back and presented it as it had been given, unchanged. The account remained with his words and actions, allowing them to be heard plainly. The master answered him. He addressed the servant's explanation and his decision. The account did not soften the response. It described the judgment that followed. The talent was taken from him and given to the one who had 10. The servant who had not used what was entrusted to him was cast out. The sequence followed in clear order as the settling of accounts reached its end. Jesus spoke this account fully, describing the entrusting, the time of absence, the return, and the settlement. He did not interrupt the telling to explain its meaning. He allowed the events to stand as they were described, grounded in real authority, real responsibility, and real outcomes. The crowd remained quiet. The shore remained unchanged. The water moved gently beside them. The parable had been spoken from beginning to end, following real actions and decisions, and it was left there, complete, resting within the ordinary reality from which it had been drawn. Jesus remained with the same account, allowing the sequence of events to be described more fully by staying with the period of waiting and the moment of reckoning that followed. He did not change his tone or his place. The people remained where they were, listening. The scene by the shore did not shift. The teaching continued in the same calm and deliberate manner, unfolding the account as it would have been experienced by those involved. The time between the master's departure and his return was long. Days passed, then months, then years. Life continued in the ordinary way. The servants carried on with their responsibilities. The absence of the master did not cancel what had been entrusted. What had been given remained in their care, whether it was used or kept hidden. The waiting did not come with reminders or warnings. It simply continued. The servants who had traded with what they received lived with the outcome of their work. Their efforts unfolded over time. Exchanges were made. Risks were taken. Gains accumulated gradually. The work was not completed in a single moment. It required attention, patience, and endurance. Nothing in the account suggested haste. The growth happened across the stretch of time while the master was away. The servant who hid the talent also lived through this same passage of time. The ground where the talent had been buried remained undisturbed. Seasons passed over it, rain fell. Heat dried the soil. From the surface, nothing marked the place where the money lay. The servant knew where it was, but the talent itself did nothing. It remained exactly as it had been placed, unchanged and unused. When the master finally returned, the time of waiting ended. The servants were called to account. Each one came forward with what he had. The moment was not hurried. The process followed in order. Each servant stood before the master and presented the outcome of what had been entrusted. The first servant brought what he had gained in addition to what he was given. He presented both together. The second servant did the same. The master's response was consistent. He acknowledged the faithfulness shown in small and large amounts alike. The approval given did not depend on the size of what was entrusted, but on what had been done with it. The account described this plainly, without elaboration. When the servant who had hidden the talent came forward, the contrast was clear. He brought back exactly what he had received. Nothing more and nothing less. The ground had preserved it. Time had not altered it. His explanation followed. He spoke of fear and caution. He described his choice as one made to avoid loss. The account remained with his words as they were spoken. The master answered him directly. He addressed the servant's decision and its result. The account did not linger on emotion. It stayed with the action taken. The talent was removed from him and given to the servant who had gained more. What had been unused was taken away. The servant who had done nothing with what was entrusted to him was removed from his place. The matter was settled. Jesus told this without softening the outcome or extending the account beyond its end. The sequence was complete. Trust was given. Time passed. Actions were taken or avoided. Accounts were settled. Nothing was left unresolved within the story. The people listening understood the structure of the account. Masters entrusted property. Servants acted according to their judgment. Absence was followed by return. Responsibility was measured by action. These were realities they recognized from their own experience. When Jesus finished speaking, he did not add explanation or instruction. He allowed the account to remain as it had been told, complete in itself. The shore remained quiet. The boat rested on the water. The sea continued its gentle movement. The teaching reached its end, not with emphasis or conclusion, but by simply stopping. Having been fully spoken, the words settled where they were heard, grounded in real work, real waiting, and real outcomes. The day continued toward evening. Nothing further was added. The accounts had been told as they were, and they remained there, complete, within the ordinary world from which they had been drawn.